So as you can tell, today we are in a different place. We are in Chamonix and the beautiful mountains of the French Alps. I thought it'd be a really great place for me to talk about one of my favorite effects, and that is the shutter drag. It's a really great way for you to add some visual interest to your video and photo content, and I thought we could have a little bit of fun here today talking about that. You see, when you first start out in your photography and video journey, I feel like a lot of us, and for good reason, are focused and obsessed with getting the settings right, getting the exposure right, getting everything to look right. And when you're learning things about the aperture or the ISO or the shutter, you're really trying to dial in those settings. But the thing is, once you learn to break those settings and the rules behind them, after you've learned how to use them properly, that's when you can really infuse and use this shutter drag effect to your advantage. So as you can see, that is Mont Blanc behind us. And we got up a little early today so that I could make this video for you. And so right now we're actually heading out to a place where we can maybe shoot a little sequence to show off the effect. But I've used the effect many times before in my videos. And so I feel like I can talk a little bit about the settings and my thoughts on it before we start creating this little sequence. Now, most times, a lot of people are going to refer to it as a slow shutter as well. And it's often used in a lot of landscape photography for, waterfalls. You'll see it a lot in Iceland. A lot of people use the effect. And for flowing rivers, it's when you slow down your shutter and give it that milky effect. Now, before we talk about what is slow and what isn't, typically for video on 24 frames per second, you're going to be having the shutter 1/50. And in photography, you're going to at least want 1/50 as the slowest or higher to get really sharp photos. But when you want to use this effect, you want the shutter to be much slower than that. So another great way that you'll often see the slow shutter or the shutter drag used is in urban photography. And they use it to, slow down the cars and just to kind of give that motion of traffic moving. In one of my favorite photos that I've ever taken was where there were cars going down across the bottom and the S-Bahn, which is above the city, going through, and they were kind of intersecting each other. And I was just isolating one of the sort of iconic Keuves buildings in Berlin. And it's a really great way to just give your photos some motion and makes it feel a little bit dreamier. I've used it in video in the last transitions video that I did because I wanted for me to be standing against a pillar and to have people zipping past me to show that sort of chaotic vibe. And when you're in a really busy place, sometimes it's a great trick to capture what you need to capture without worrying about what everyone else is doing. We also did this as a photo in Milan because when we were at the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II, well, if you've ever been there, that mall is absolutely wild. And so I really wanted a picture of Caterina there, but it was impossible to get any sort of shot without tourists. So I said, hey, you stand super still and I'll try to take that shot. Now that shot, I believe it was shot at a shutter of 1/5. And that was the slowest I could get it because I didn't have a tripod. And with the camera stabilization, I was still able to get Caterina super crisp because I told her not to move, but then everything else around her was ultra blurry. For video, when you use this effect, I feel like it gives it that dreamy effect that I was talking about. And it gives you like this sort of hallucination or this nightmarish effect, depending on how you want to use it. But today, since we're in this beautiful meadow, I figured that we could try to do something really cool and do that same effect. For video, the best way to create this effect is to make sure you're shooting on a bit of a wider lens because you want the background. You want to really be able to see the subject, but to also see that background. I find for myself personally, when you have a subject in the video, to use a shutter that is 1/10. But if you want it to feel even more chaotic and a little more hallucinating or dreamlike, then you can go a little slower, like 1/5, 1/4, 1/3, or even slower if you want. But right now the sun's coming up, so let's try to just put something together and see what we get. So that's pretty much it. But before I do the outro, look at these mountains. Aren't they just absolutely ridiculous? It's really hard to capture what they look like in person. And I feel like mountains never look the same as they do when you're actually here. You just feel so little. But I thought it'd be a really great place to create something that has a bit more of a dreamy vibe and not so clinical. And so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you will try the effect, because really there's no right or wrong, because you are already breaking the rules to try to infuse some artistic impression into whatever it is you're creating. So if you have any questions about how to do it, if I missed anything and you need to know more, reach out to me in the comments. If you create something using this effect, also tag me in the comments. I would love to see it. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share. Thank you so much for the support, everybody. And we have so much more coming from Chamonix. So we'll see you in the next few videos. And as always, live passionately and stay inspired.